We are here today with Jeff Neill, and Jeff is an award-winning guitarist, songwriter, and producer who currently tours with Canadian Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees Streetheart. Jeff toured extensively through North America with Canadian legends Loverboy in the mid to late 90s, playing shows with the likes of Foreigner, Cheap Trick, and Blue Oyster Cult. Jeff has toured and played shows with the Rolling Stones, Bon Jovi, Sting, ZZ Top, and Bryan Adams. Jeff also gained international success with Australian rock legend Jimmy Barnes, touring, writing, and recording with Jimmy for 11 years from 1986 through 97, selling over 3 million records during that time. Jeff has co-written with such notables as Jim Vallance, Jonathan Cain, and Keith Urban. And as a songwriter, Jeff has earned over 24 gold, platinum, and multi-platinum awards internationally, with a total of over 4 million units sold worldwide. Jeff was also the host, MC of CanaFest from 2016 to 2018. And CanaFest was one of Canada's top classic rock summer festivals and hosted thousands of fans from across Canada and the US. This mix of accomplishment, experience, and agility to both negotiate the ups and downs of the music industry for over 45 years has molded Jeff into a complete talent, one who understands not only the creative side of the business, but also the work ethic and responsibility needed to get the most out of these opportunities when they present themselves. Thank you for joining me today, Jeff.
It's my pleasure to be here, Sarah. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it's so weird to hear somebody else read my bio to me."
Yeah, well, I've been very lucky. I've had some good opportunities, and I have managed to make the best of most of them. Dropped the ball a few times, as we all have, but
It's learning.
I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunities and chances I've had over my career.
Yeah. So do you want to tell your story briefly a little bit for listeners who might not know you, a bit about who you are and your journey in the biz, how you got where you are today?
Okay. Well, I started playing professionally when I was in 1974, when I was 18. That's when I went on the road and started playing professionally. I've been playing. I started playing music, obviously, as a kid. Was 7 years old when the British invasion, the Beatles came, and basically at that point, music became sort of the only thing I really wanted to do outside of an interest in studying law.
Okay.
Yeah, that was what would be my chosen occupation. At 17, I was living in Sault Ste. Marie at the time, and I was playing in a band with some buddies, and they were going on the road. And being the youngest kid in the band at 17, Mom and Dad, can I go on the road? No, you're 17. You haven't even graduated yet. So the following year, my friend Brian Armstrong came back with his band and said, "Hey, Jeff, what do you think?" I said, "Mom and Dad," and they went, "Oh, okay." All right. I said, just for a year. And then if that doesn't work out, I'll go to university, I'll get my law degree, and away we go. Yeah. So 49 years later, here we are. And of course, I mean, a number of wonderful things have happened during that time. I was off playing clubs. Some of you might remember a band called Shama that were very popular in Western Canada in the late 70s. Yeah. That was a great band, wonderful band, high school friends. We're still friends today. All four of us are still very close. I joined Streetheart in 1981 and was with Streetheart until 1984. Moved back to Vancouver after that. And as you mentioned previously, I hooked up with Jimmy Barnes in 1986. That was supposed to be a 3-month tour that Bruce Allen had put me on to go, and 3 months became 11 years.
The 3-hour tour.
That's exactly what it was. I used to sing that song. I mean, and Jimmy and I used to just butt heads for the first 3 months. I thought, oh God, this guy hates me. But then at the end of that tour, he asked me, he said, "Jeff, do you want to go over to Australia and play with my Australian band over there?" So that began a very, very good and very long career.
Yeah.
And that ended in 97, and I came back to Canada, did session work, working for, did some stuff with Disney and was writing
Mm-hmm.
a lot of sessions. I went from being a session guitar player to being a writer,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because I had some people that stepped up for me and believed me that I could do that. And it's always people that help you out, that get you where you want to go. And
Yeah.
I started doing shows with Streetheart again in 2004, and basically took over the business from Kenny in 2007. He just said, Jeff, can you do this? You seem to enjoy the business side of it more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been sort of steering the band, I've been steering the band business-wise for the past 15 years. And we've had an amazing run. I mean, the classic rock scene is just, it's been quite incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember when I first started doing it, our agent said to me, Jeff, I don't know how long this is going to go on for. And, it's like a couple of years. And that was in 2004. It's now 2023. So it will have it has a finite end. I mean,
Yeah.
we're losing at a faster rate. We're losing our heroes, our colleagues and friends around us. It's a hard time, but I think it's part of what goes with having had such a long ride.
Yeah.
So, and here we are today.
Yeah.
And here we are sitting talking, Sarah. And as I say to my friends now, I say, we're still here.
We are.
And we have to make we make the best of it. And I'm just so grateful to be here. And I'm grateful for my friends and the opportunities. And it's here we are.
Yeah. I think it is such a blessing to be able to look back on a life at any point in it. And, I'm going to turn 50 this year, and I look at my life and go, wow, I have made the majority of my living for the majority of my life attached to music in some way. And that is such a gift.
Yes, it is. Oh, so young.
Well, I mean, that does come with the price tag of my children all just moved out of the house in the past year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
that. I get
Yeah.
that.
So here on the Vocal Lab, we sort of aim to shine the light on the music industry through the lens of what I know now that I wish I'd known then.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, if you were starting your career over again, what do you think you'd do differently, if anything?
That's that's very easy to answer, but it's very difficult to answer.
Yeah.
If I had done anything differently, we wouldn't be here, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I might write more songs. I might work harder. Those are easy things to say.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I've always worked hard at my craft. I mean, I think that the people that know me, my colleagues, they know that I'm not afraid of work. I don't do well if I'm not in my schedule of work. But I've you learn to work with it. Things. Your life sort of changes. I know that early on in my career, I think a lot of my problems, a lot of issues that I had in my career sometimes weren't necessarily from the music end, or their personal stuff that caused more tough times for me. Trying to be in a relationship when you're on the road and I was so self-focused. Those were hard times. And I mean, relationships are a wonderful thing, but I think I'm not saying don't have a relationship, but you have to be very, very careful. It takes a very, very special person to be in your life that will understand and support what you do. Most people understand it, but when you actually get into it, it's much harder than the partners even realize, because you're so focused.
Yeah, well, and I think you're so focused and so absent.
Yes.
Like, I don't mean absent from the relationship emotionally speaking, but absent physically a lot of the time. So
Yeah.
it is ostensibly a long distance relationship for possibly years and years at a time.
It really is. And in the early days for us, we were on the circuit. We were a touring band.
Yeah.
So for us, every day was the same. We got up at noon. We had breakfast at 1:30 in the afternoon. We went and practiced. We got ready for the show. We started at 9. We played till 2. We sat around and did whatever we did till 4, and we went to bed and we repeated. We did that over and over, week after week after week. It's the partners and the spouses and the significant others that are sitting at home waiting for you. And as the longer I've lived, the more I appreciate how incredibly difficult and lonely that is for all of our significant others. And at this point in my life, I'm incredibly grateful to have such a wonderful person in my life. I mean, my life is different now. I go on the road for 3 days at a time.
Yeah.
Maybe 5. The long road trip for me last year was 5 days.
Yeah.
So,
so do you guys do sort of more flyouts, that kind of thing now?
Yeah. We do. I mean, and Sarah, typically most of our shows are weekend dates.
Yeah.
The summertime is quite busy for us. Like I always tell all the fellas every year when we're booking our schedule, I say, just assume, guys, that we will be playing every weekend of July and August. Just set it up that way. So, and in most cases, we are playing every weekend. Hopefully, usually 2 shows, at least 1. And sometimes we'll get a midweek show, but they're always, I mean, for us, typical is to fly out Thursday evening. We like to travel day before show if we can. Fly out Thursday, fly home Sunday. All summer, my suitcase sits at the foot of the bed. It, gets the dirty clothes go into the wash. They go back in the suitcase, and it's just a cycle again. Fun, but you get to be home for a couple of days, and that's kind of nice. And I usually try and do my business on a Monday and take Tuesday's my weekend. And then Wednesday I start winding it up again. For the next week.
Well, and do you want to talk just briefly about, like you just said, you guys try to fly out the day before. So I was talking to Bill Henderson recently from Chilliwack, and he was saying they do the same thing and that comes with the privilege of being at a certain point in your career when you can do that. So I will acknowledge that piece of that.
Yeah, very grateful for
sure.
That. Yeah.
But do you want to tell us sort of, you ran through what a typical day in the life was in your younger years.
Right.
What does it look like now, start to finish, like door to door for you, from leaving home to getting back home, when you do a fly out gig? How does that schedule unfold in order to best care for yourselves and your instruments and your performance and all of that? What does that schedule look like for you?
Well, it's fairly busy for me. Just 'cause I run all the business of the band, so I book all the flights. I book all the shows through my agent. I do all the liaison work with the promoters as far as setting up guest lists of rooms. We also our front of house producer Peter Petrovich is amazing. He's invaluable. He does all the technical work for us. He's one of the best in the business, and I think I'd be overwhelmed without him. When we get to the airport, we all make sure we're all together. We check in, and I'm not the tour manager, but I'm kind of the tour manager. So I'm making sure he's there. And I have to wear a number of hats during the course of a weekend. A lot of the times, again, I'm not the tour manager, but I sort of fill that role. So I'm always making sure that our ground transportation is there and ready when we arrive. And if it's not, I'm on my phone. And then we get to the hotel, I make sure the rooms are ready for us so that the boys can check in and nobody has to wait around. And, sort out things like make sure everybody gets the per diems for food for the day. I'll usually get down to the hall, make sure everything's okay, sort out the merchandise, who's going to do merchandise, how we're doing it. And then we'll do our sound check. And then I'll try and find some time to practice, some time to work out, because that's part of what I've done. I've always done that. I'm sort of fitness is very important to me. I've been working out 5 days a week for almost 50 years. And I don't really become a guitar player until about maybe half an hour before the show, if that makes any sense. Once we're done, okay, then I can kind of get into my stage clothes and get ready and get focused. And I've learned how to go from one role to the other. I would say mine. There's a lot of other artists that running we're running our own bands and we do a lot of the same thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun and it's kind of good because you know what's going on with everything, but
Hmm.
they're very busy weekends for me.
Yeah.
And when the show's over, I mean, I have to make sure we collect the balance of payment for the shows. You know, you got to take care of all the business end of it,
Hmm.
and then follow up after the show with the promoters, thank them, go around, try and thank the people that have been very important, that have played a key role in making the show happen,
Hmm.
and then go back to the room, go to sleep, and get up. And if we travel another show the next day, I do basically the same type of thing. Or it's Sunday and we go to the airport and we get in the plane and we go home. And when I sit down on that seat on Sunday, I go, oh, it's my holiday time.
Yeah.
I never do anything on the airplane except nod off. If you see me leaning against the window with my eyes shut. And it's kind of my little holiday, you know,
Yeah.
and I sort of enjoy that little bit of time in the air doing that. So
Yeah.
it's very busy. I'm probably more busy when we were. I laugh. I talk to the guys in the band. I say, I know why our tour managers were always grumpy. You know, he'd be on tour,
Yeah.
and you'd go, "Hey, Jerry, our room's ready." And he'd look. He said, "Sit down and shut up. Just go sit down on the sofa there." And he's, you know, I'm working, and he's talking at the front desk, and we'd be grabbing his shirt, going, "Our room's ready yet?" You know, we didn't have anything else to do, right?
Yeah.
You know, so again, I'm not unique in this. This is something that so many of our colleagues do now as
Hmm.
we take care of our own business, and we're kind of lucky to be able to do it. You know,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
I very much agree, and we'll come back to that point again in a little bit. But
Okay.
so we've talked about uh, what you do differently. Conversely, what are the pieces that you feel like you would do the same all over again in your
Uh,
career, in your life?
what would I do the same?
Yep.
I think that uh, I would I would certainly work as hard as I always have.
Hmm.
I mean, I think that I am a hard worker, but in this business, as has been said to me, is this. Jeff, your business, it's not a fair business. You know, the music business is not fair. It's not
Yeah.
based on merit. Um, uh, like my gal Renata, she says to me, Jeff, we're both the same. We're both professionals. The difference between you and I is that I get paid properly for what I do, and musicians don't always get paid properly for what they do,
Hmm.
and there's a number of reasons for that. Sometimes it's, you know, it's bad luck, bad timing. Yeah, I mean, so many of us can say, why did that person make it and this person didn't make it?
Hmm.
You know, she's technically a much better singer than her, but somehow one of them did really well and the other one is struggling to pay their rent their entire life.
Yeah.
And there's so much that goes into it, but
Yeah.
it's not a merit-based thing. If you're a great hockey player, you get an NHL contract. What you do with that is, you know, if your skill is skill,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm on both sides of the fence because I see wonderful artists that I consider so much more skilled than I am, and have amazing talents that really have nothing, and I feel guilty. Like I think, oh, you know. On the other hand, I sort of see, I go, why are they up there and we're still down here?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
I try not to I'm just saying that as an observation. I don't have any, at this point, I don't have any bitterness about it. I mean, I'm competitive, but I think being angry and bitter is a bit, that's limiting.
Yeah.
And I'm the longer I live, the more I try and sort of see the big picture, you know. So there's so much of what I'm proud of the way I've conducted myself in my career. I haven't, and I'm very grateful for everything that I've accomplished. I'm
Hmm.
also incredibly ambitious. So am I satisfied? No.
Hmm. Well, that's a good place to be, I think.
Yeah. But I'm very grateful. I'm
Yeah.
very grateful,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, for everything.
I think there's something to be said that if all your ambitions have been satisfied, you haven't set the bar high enough.
Good point. That's a good point.
You know?
And that's very good. And I think it's a healthy place to be. And I think that's where I am. And I think a lot of our colleagues would probably answer the same way.
Yeah.
We all want to, I mean, when you're young, what do you think about, a warehouse full of fast cars and a private island and and a jet and all that other stuff. But it changes. I mean,
Yes.
I have a wonderful life that I'm so very, very grateful for. But it's come at a cost. I mean, I've made some sacrifices in my life, and I've had to deal with some incredibly powerful loss.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been an easy road, but I think that overall, I've done okay. I've had some dark moments, but today I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, then today's a good day.
Yes, it
right?
is. Yeah, it sure is. It sure is, Sarah. It's a good day right now.
We are in an industry that sees widely differing levels of education and theory to supplement talent.
Right.
Some people have formal education, some are totally self-taught. What did your musical education look like, and how has that impacted your work?
Well, I did have some training. I mean, I come from a musical family, like yourself. My father was a conservatory trained pianist. He was an English teacher, but he also played piano, and he was very, very good. He could play wonderful music until you took it away from him. He couldn't really play by ear. My mom taught me how to play guitar. My mom used to sing cowboy, country, and western songs and stuff, and she showed me a few chords on her right-handed guitar, which being left-handed, I learned how to play them upside down. I did take piano lessons. I was at 9 years old.
Yeah.
And I took piano lessons for a year, and then we moved, and I never found a piano teacher after that. I liked my teacher. I enjoyed playing piano. I didn't really like the process of the lessons. I didn't like the songs we were playing. It was kind of boring to me. And reading music, I just played for me. Like, I could figure it out that way. And so I took the piano lessons for a year. Our family moved down to Southern Ontario, and I basically never took piano up again. Started to get into playing in bands. I was 10 years old, and for Christmas, Dad got me a copy of a Beatle bass and a Little Trainer bass made amplifier. And like all the kids in the neighborhood were playing in bands, as was typical in the sort of the late 60s kind of thing. And I took music all through high school. It was always one of my highest marks every year. And I took music. I studied music right to the very end. My last year, we had a wonderful teacher in Sault Ste. Marie at Boarding Collegiate and Vocational School. His name was Frank Elliott, and he was just a beautiful, beautiful man. And we all loved him dearly. We all called him Uncle Frank. And we did our final exam, and we played. We'd go 1-on-1 and play player instrument. I played flute. That was sort of official instrument. Although I was starting to play some guitar charts in our school band. We had a great high school band. We had the #1 band in Ontario for 3 years running in the AAA competition. It was a terrific band. I mean, it's excellent. There are so many amazing musicians who have came out of that program.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're backing up to Frank again. I played my piece of music, and he said, "Jeff, that was really great, and you didn't read a damn note of it, did you?" I said, "Frank, I know it." He said, "Oh, okay." He gave me, and I got a great mark. But he recognized, and he said he recognized. He said, "Jeff, you're going to have a career at this business because you have a feel for it. You have a feel for music." And so I don't, technically I'm not very good. Like as far as a reader, I can read a chord chart, but I would put notes down and go, "Oh, I don't know what to do." I kind of have to go, "Oh, cows eat grass." I'm even doing sessions when I was in Vancouver. Most of the people that hired me knew that I wasn't a great reader, but they knew that I could bring some vibe. I'd always sit myself down beside someone like a Doug Edwards, for example, who was brilliant. Doug, what is this? And he'd go, oh, Jack, it's this thing here, it's this. Oh, I go, oh, that's like that Beatles riff. And I'd write down that Beatles riff on my chart. And when it came to it, I'd know the notes. I mean, I could read chord charts, but that was
Yeah.
okay. I mean, it was never really called on. So I've always kind of played sort of by ear.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a mutt that way. I could read a chord chart, but for me, it's just, can you play it for me? And I go, oh yeah, okay, I know what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, ears are a huge muscle. And that's actually exactly why I like to talk about this piece with my guests,
Mm-hmm.
musical education, because some people have very formal education and some people can't read a note but have great ears. And
Mm-hmm.
both pieces are valid. And especially
Oh, yeah.
in pop music, in rock and roll, it's not like classical music where if you can't read music, you are not going to get very far as a classical musician. It
No, no, no,
is
no.
required in that genre, but in
Absolutely.
our field,
Mhm.
it's not a requirement.
No,
And
no, it's not.
yeah,
Passion is a requirement.
absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
that is a requirement. That you and one of the things that when we're recording vocals,
Hmm.
one of the things that Daryl Agushal, our keyboard player in Streetheart, says: do you believe what they're singing? Do you believe them
Yeah.
when they're up there singing? Are they selling you the song? There are some great. I always divide, like, just sidebarring onto vocalists.
Hmm.
There's a big difference between having a great voice and being a great singer.
Yes.
I know I know some people who have wonderful voices who aren't particularly great singers,
Hmm.
and there are people who don't have particularly great voices who are wonderful singers who
Yep.
really can sell the song. But they may not have the most beautiful, wonderful voice, but their passion, their delivery, their ability to convey the message is everything.
I talk to my students often about the concept that artists, and I believe that all artists, um, obviously we're talking about it in the field of music, but I think artists are storytellers. All of us.
Yes,
We just have
yes,
different tools with which we do it.
right,
Musicians have, the notes and rhythm and harmony and melody and all that. Singers have the added bonus of actually having words to work with as well. But
right.
I firmly believe that as musicians and as singers, well, singers are musicians. I
Mhm.
don't mean to
No, 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 no,
separate
no, no,
those,
no, no,
but
no.
that we are storytellers, like first and foremost, above everything else. That's what we are.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah, I agree.
that's
I think probably originally that's what the bards and singers were. They were storytellers.
yeah,
They were kind of like living books
yeah.
in some way. I mean, things have changed a little bit since then, but yeah, in pop music, rock and roll, it's like there are no real rules to it. Like you were talking about classical music. I mean,
Hmm.
you absolutely have to be able to read music to do that, and there are certain.
Hmm.
I'm always so well, okay. I'll just use. I'm sort of jealous when I see people that can read music and play well, and it's like, wow, you're so literate in every aspect. I mean, there are certain parts of music that I can't. I look at a sheet of music and I don't. It doesn't speak to me,
Yeah.
and and where someone can open up and go, oh, this is beautiful. Oh, and I'm going, huh, what? I don't know what that is, but it's never really, for our business, what comes from the heart is more important than what comes
Yep.
from the head,
Absolutely.
and all artists like that, like as you were alluding to a couple minutes ago. So
Yeah. Yeah. Um, do you want to talk a little bit about the relationships in your career? You talked actually a little bit about it at the beginning. You've talked about your partner and you've talked about your music teacher, but what have been the most important relationships in your career? And just for clarity, I'm not really specifically asking you to like name names in the biz here or
right, yeah,
anything. You can talk about whoever you want to, but I'm really talking about the personal and professional relationships that have been important in your journey getting where you are today.
well, I think first and foremost, the most important relationships, the foundation of my musical career is my parents.
Hmm.
Both mom and dad were very supportive. They were always supportive. They were never against me playing music.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't make the path easy for me, but they provided opportunities.
Yep.
My dad said, Jeff, you have $300. You can buy a bass and an amp with that. What do you, and I really wanted a Hofner Beetle bass, but they were $250, so I couldn't get one of those. I got a Pyramid knockoff of a Beetle bass, and it was $90. And I had $200 left over for the little trainer bass mate. And my parents were always very, very supportive in my career. I had mentioned Frank Elliott, but any of the students that worked with Frank, we loved him, and we loved him like a dad, like an uncle. Like he was the best teacher. When I look back on my going in my high school, all my school years, Frank Elliott is number one for me.
Yeah,
I've worked with great musicians all my life. My goal is to always be the least good guy in the band, if that makes any sense.
Always work with people better than you.
Better than me.
Yeah.
Then I've really accomplished something. I don't want to be bad. I just want everybody. I want to have people around me that are that good, that inspire me. I think a lot of you will know Mick Delavy and Michael Sicoli and Brian Armstrong are my friends in Shamrock. We were a great band right out of the. We played great songs. Both Mick and Michael are wonderful singers. They both have great voices and are wonderful singers, and still are, and still go. I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to audition for Streetheart when I had just turned 25. So all of a sudden, I'm with who I consider to be probably some of the very best rock and roll musicians in Western Canada. At that point, with Kenny Shields and Spider Sineve, Daryl Gutal and Bob Ego. And then Jimmy Barnes, of course, was incredibly important to me. I've had some people who have given me some very, very good advice over the years, have been sort of, in big ways and small ways, very good mentors to me.
Yep.
Jim Valance is someone who I admired very, very much. I have great respect for someone like Bruce Allen, who's provided the opportunities to work. He was the one that provided the opportunity to get together with Jimmy Barnes with him in his office. I'm going to have to go through the list. There's so many people. There's so many people along the way that are really important to me.
Yeah.
Back to Jimmy Barnes. That decade with him was an incredibly powerful time in my life. It was pretty much the crest of my professional career, really trying to go for it as a recording artist, if that makes sense.
Yep.
It hit a peak. I would say that my career hit its peak around 1995, 96. We were touring in Europe. We were doing big shows of our own. We played a show at the end of the summer, opening up for the Rolling Stones. And after the show, they were so impressed. They asked if we wanted to do the rest of the shows through Germany, but I had already committed to to do a tour with Loverboy in the U.S. So we weren't able to do that. But Jimmy's manager, Michael Godinsky, who we lost a couple of years ago, was a wonderful, amazing man. Sarah, I've had so many good people that have given me so many good pieces of advice, and I've just tried to sort of learn from them all, and pay attention to the ones that have good advice, and I just sort of ignore the ones that don't. You get a lot of that too. I try not to take too much of that to heart.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's always that balancing act between knowing what's good advice for you.
Yes.
Like, first off, what's good advice for you might not be the same as good advice for somebody else. That same piece of information might fit differently for two different people. So knowing what you hold on to and what you let roll off your back, that's always the balancing act.
Yeah. And I try not to say, oh, we'll do this and this and this, and the things will work out for you. I don't know whether I have that kind of sage wisdom. I think I know things that have worked for me. I've kind of, it hasn't always been a pretty ride in my life. I've had some very, very difficult times, but I'm not alone in that. We all have our own story. So I'm not good. Mine aren't special. They're just unique to me.
Yeah.
But as part of we all face challenge. I mean, I think I could say to any young artist, be prepared to face challenge because it's coming.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
coming for you, and be ready for it. And don't focus too much. Don't worry about the things that are working out. They just take care of themselves.
Mm.
Save your energy and stay focused on what. Don't obsess on it, but be aware of what could go wrong here. Like, and be ready for that. Like great. Oh, they love us. Okay, don't worry about those people. Let's worry about the ones that are the naysayers, the ones that are making it hard for you. How do we get to them somehow, or how do we represent ourselves in a way where maybe we'll have more success next time we present our product to them?
Yeah, and I think that's I mean, that's just constantly wanting to learn and get better and do a better job of your job,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's the same in it. The details might be different in our industry than they are in whatever law or sales or medicine or anywhere else, but the principle is the same thing. You're trying to figure out where are the places that you can improve, and that's what you want to put your energy on, because the places that you're already good at, you're already good at.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they just take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Good has a way of taking care of itself. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But it's paying attention. I mean, you got to take time to enjoy things. It doesn't mean ignore
Yes.
the good things in your life. It just means, for me, and again, this is only for me, and if anyone else chooses to be this way, I sort of go, okay, I'm thinking about this because this could kind of go sideways here. So let's just watch this. Whatever this is, we just give it some energy. Too many times I have made some of my mistakes in my professional career have been from assuming, and assumption is a very tricky thing, that someone is going to do the right thing for you. Many times they will, but more often than you care to know, people won't do what's in your best interest. I mean, this is a hard business. I'm not trying to sound jaded or cynical about it, but it's a very,
but it's the reality.
difficult business.
Yep.
One of the things that I have found is it's very hard to get someone who is above you, whatever, like to do something for you. People who. And I hate to say above and beneath, but if there was a pecking order to it, I mean, trying to get to the president of a record company, that's not very easy.
Right.
But it's just not. And if you get someone who will look down and say, "Hey, kid, I'm ready to help you." That's an amazing moment when that happens, and you have to do that. I've had some of those. This is where I mentioned Bruce Allen earlier, because he was one of those gentlemen that phoned me up and said, "Jeff, it's Bruce Allen here. I got this tour I want you to do with Jimmy Barnes. It's 3 months." Bruce, right? It was wonderful, and I wouldn't have got that job without him and his office, and there was more people involved with it than just Bruce. But it was, you need, every artist needs someone to reach down and pull them up and say, "You know what, kid, you deserve a chance." It's the understudy that gets the chance to do the play because the lead actor twisted their ankle. And that's how it happens. That's how it happens.
Yeah. So what do you think creates, so if those are some of the pieces that need to be in place in terms of the building blocks, like you need to have those moments where somebody extends their hand and says, "Come along with me, kid." That's part of the process. What do you think actually creates a career with longevity?
Well, I would, continuing to stay focused. Avoid the booze and drugs, kids. I mean, you don't have to be a hermit, but I mean, like I say to people, I'm no choir boy, but I'm not. I've been in rock and roll bands. People say, "Have you ever done drugs?" I go, "I've been in rock and roll bands for 50 years."
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen them. I've seen things.
Yeah.
But you have to look after yourself. I think taking care of yourself physically and mentally. The mental part's really hard. Physical is you can do it. I mean, that's been part of it for me. It's
Hmm.
just, because you have to travel and you have to feel good and you have to present well. And at this point, I know our fans aren't expecting us to show up and look 20. That's not
Hmm.
it. They want to
Hmm.
show us to show up and look like we care about ourselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's basically all that we have to do. So staying, and you have to keep playing your instrument. You have to, if
Yeah.
you have to dedicate time to the instrument. The great players all do that. I have a simple thing. People say, Jeff, you practice every day? I go, yeah, 'cause I get paid to be a good guitar player.
Yeah.
I get paid to be good. And I mean, if I don't practice, I'm not that good. But if I practice, I start off that, like I always say, I start off the day not so great. By the end of the day, I'm pretty good.
It's a
But
muscle.
it is, yeah, oh, it is, and it's just involves that. It involves, and Sarah, you have to have some measure of discipline in your life.
Yeah.
We have great as artists. It's a great life,
Yeah.
and for many of us. And it's not for everyone because everyone doesn't get as lucky. Again, the longer I do this, the more I appreciate people who have put just as much time and effort into their careers as I have and have got so much less out of it. And
Hmm.
it's kind of breaks my heart a bit.
Hmm.
So, I wish everybody could enjoy a measure of success for this commitment and this love that we have and this calling and this muse that calls us every day.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's just such awfully tough business on that
It
level.
it really is. It's a really tough business, and I think so. One of the things that I'm trying to do on this show is have lots of different um, people who intersect in the music industry on, because I think it's also an important perspective to start to see that there are actually a lot of different ways in which you can have success
Hmm.
within the umbrella of the music industry, and
Yeah.
they might not look like you thought they were going to look when you were 17 years old sitting in your bedroom playing your guitar.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah. Dreaming
it's
of being the next Beatles.
exactly. It doesn't always work out that way, but that
No,
doesn't mean you can't craft a really fulfilling, successful career in that industry.
absolutely right. That's such a great point, because I would have my career hasn't worked out at all like the way I imagined it was going to,
Hmm.
like how I imagined it when I was a kid. But in spite of that, it's been quite wonderful. It's kind of like, it's like. You don't. There's the prizes in the package of popcorn. You have no idea what they are. You go, oh, I got this. I got this.
Yeah.
Okay. And at this point in my life, I'm very, very grateful. I'm very
Yeah.
grateful. I have a very, very good personal life. I have a wonderful partner in my life who I
Hmm.
love dearly, and I have great musicians who I respect and love, and friends.
Hmm.
And so, have I achieved success based on that? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've had a very successful career, but it's nothing like what I imagined it was, or like what I said. What did I want? Oh, I want to be a big rock star, and I'm going to do
Yeah.
this, and I want cars, and and I'm going to have a scarf blown up behind me in the sports car. Kind of.
Myself, I look at it and I think I get to pay my bills by doing something involved in music,
Yes.
instead of something not involved in music.
Hmm.
When I was young, I thought I wanted to be a big rock star, but in hindsight, I could not be more grateful that that is not how my life went.
Yes.
Quite frankly,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think I was cut out for the losses that come with that.
There's loss that comes with that.
Yeah,
There's loss that comes with
loss
it.
of privacy, loss of personal life. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's lots of great things about it,
Hmm.
and
It's a double-edged sword.
yeah, and so I'm glad my life didn't work out that way in hindsight.
Yes.
But I got to be a working singer, and I got to teach voice, and I got to still work in that umbrella. And so, yeah, I think it's just really worth acknowledging that it doesn't always look like you think it's going to from
Well,
the outset.
and I think that's a good point that people, especially young people, need to appreciate that you kind of keep your eyes on the prize, but kind of have flex. It isn't a straight road.
Yeah.
It's a whole bunch of wonderful twisting turns, and you may go in a different direction. And just kind of, you do have to kind of go with it, Sarah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm with you. I kind of, at this point, I appreciate I go shopping for groceries and do things and just do what I do. And I can do all those normal things. And I don't really I don't get harassed ever. I get acknowledged from time to time. And it's always in a very, very nice. I mean, I get a kick out of the fact that at our shows, when they have security at the front of the stage, I go, have you looked at our audience? What do you think's going to happen to us? We're going to get hugged. At worst, we're going to get hugged. Our audience is sort of, I'm 66. So, and I was started in Streetheart when I was 25. So just to give you, our audience is there to have some fun.
Yeah.
But anyways, just back to what we were talking about. I think I'm kind of with you. I like, there's so much involved with being very famous, and you don't really have a life. And at this point, I enjoy regular life as much as I appreciate and love what I do. Regular life is kind of good for me. I feel very satisfied. If I never did another show starting today, if my last shows were last week in Alberta, I would say I have had an amazing run. I've done 5,000 shows. I played around the world. I've sold, I could list the things that I've accomplished, and I go, wow, that's pretty impressive. I love what I do, but I don't. It doesn't define who I am.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for saying that, because I think that is, and I'm not trying to steer this conversation in a direction. If, for the young people listening, if that's your goal, don't hesitate to work for that goal, and don't hesitate to recalibrate that goal as your desires change, because that will happen. But yes, that piece of like looking backwards on your life and going, I've had a great run of it. I've had a great career. I've loved my life, and I really like my life that isn't on that stage or doesn't involve a guitar in my hands or a microphone in my hands or whatever. I actually love my life. That is nothing to sneeze at,
That's success. That is quite a successful thing to achieve for anyone at whatever it is that you do, whoever you are. Then if you can like your life, we're always going to have things that we can pick at, but I mean, I have an enormous amount of gratitude for where I'm at right now. That we still are able to go out and play. We get to play. We get to do very good shows. I mean, we do well when we play.
Yep.
We have a great band. I say to people, we make more money now than we ever did, but that was easy because we never made any money back in the 80s. We didn't make any money, so it's pretty easy to beat that. But we're friends. I kind of for classic rock, we have the best. We have an incredible fans, not just Streetheart, but I mean all of our colleagues. It's the success of the reason we were so successful at that time. Like if we look at Canada, there was this huge explosion of great bands, sort of late 70s to the mid-late 80s.
Yeah.
All these great bands. And that was due to the fact that it was the culture. It wasn't really that the bands were way better than every other band. They were great bands. Don't get me wrong. But the culture was there. The people, there was a club scene. Everybody went out. People went to concerts. The only way to hear new music is you had to go to Sam's or A&B and buy the record.
Yeah.
And you listen to the radio, listen for the new hits. It was an incredible time for us. It was just that and to have come through that and to be doing what we're doing now. When we first started, we were talking about how difficult it is for young artists. It's never been easier because of the internet and the way culture is now. It's easy to get started, to build a website and put some songs out there, try and get somebody to hear it.
Yep.
and try and most releases, they might get a bit of traction for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
40 years ago, you watched your album climb up the charts for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And it would slip, and they'd put a new single out, and it would climb up again a bit.
Yeah.
You try and get as close as you try and break the top 40, top 20, top 10, see how high you can get. And it's a different mold. It's a whole different world now for an artist, those who are successful.
I think too, this was an interesting conversation I was having with another musician very recently about social media. I mean, specifically, they were talking about TikTok, and he brought up the idea of like it's easy to put music out there, but because the world has gotten so small and so connected, there are so many really talented people in the pool now. You can't make a living off of being a TikTok singer. I mean, influencers and stuff, sure, but like being out there on TikTok singing, that doesn't pay the bills. And there's so many good people who have the tools at their disposal now to put themselves out there to be heard by the masses, but that doesn't translate into a career necessarily. That's where it's so hard to get any traction. It's like it's never been what you said. It's never been so easy, and it's never been so hard.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like I mean, you hear numbers like they say there's 100,000 songs a day get uploaded to Spotify.
Jeez,
it's staggering. I mean, basically now, if you start a career in the music business, it's like throwing a cup of water into the ocean. Nobody notices. It doesn't even make a difference. We talk about this all the time. Is it moving the meter? Is it going to do anything? I mean, people ask us about new music all the time. I mean, hey, you guys writing new music? Yeah, we do. And we're thinking of releasing a couple of things, but we also. Can you name me one classic rock band that was big in the 80s that has had a hit in the past decade?
Nope.
No. Somebody asked me about, and it's funny, people could say, I have this great, you guys should put out a new CD. People are going to love it. and of course they would. But they I go, do you know how much it costs to do that?
Yeah. That's what I'm laughing at, to be clear, not the idea of.
And I said, did you, and I had this conversation a while back, this was a few years ago. I said, do you realize that Elton John, Paul McCartney, and David Bowie have released albums this year? No. Well, that's my point. If they don't get noticed, what chance do we have? I don't mean that as a defeatist thing. I'm just sort of saying, it's just having a healthy understanding of what the business is, and you have to find new ways. You were talking about that a few minutes ago, about how there's different ways that you can do this. Every once in a while, there are a few artists like people were talking about Spotify, and then I saw some numbers about Spotify, about the top selling songs, like Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran, I mean, he's made tens of millions of dollars off of Spotify, but people have to remember that 1 million plays doesn't mean anything anymore. 1 billion is the new million.
It's astounding, the numbers.
And the streaming thing, the issue isn't the actual platform. The problem is that they've got 300 million subscribers, who I don't blame, because why not? If you're a music fan, if you can have access to the entire recorded history of music for $15 a month, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's good or bad or anything. I'm just making a statement. As an artist, I mean, I don't. Spotify doesn't take money away from all your other streams. It's just, but if it's a place where people can go and get extreme value for what they want, which is music in the background. Right. When I grew up, music was really important. It was an important part of life. When you went out to clubs, the stage was the center of the building.
Yeah.
And the lights all faced at the band. And now it's a little half moon thing with a railing around it, and the lights are on the dance floor,
Yeah.
and people are taking selfies of
Yeah.
themselves. And the band's kind of playing the hits, and that's just, and again, that's not. I'm not criticizing that. I'm just saying that's how the culture has. That's what it's evolved to.
Yes.
So it takes the musician away from being an important. 30, 40 years ago, an artist was really important.
Mm-hmm.
It was like we mattered. I mean, artists matter now, but it was something.
A different relationship.
A different relationship. I think for a lot of people, music is something you get for free off the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, pay for it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And people are, and I can't hold that against people because people just get used to what they do, and if they can find music out there. I remember when Napster came out, and people were just downloading all these libraries of songs, and I didn't think about it, and here we are. I feel lucky because we have a catalog and we have a history that we can go out and play, and we can play all summer to these amazing fans that have been driving down this rock and roll road with us for, Streetheart. This is the 47th year for Streetheart.
That's
incredible
track
it's
record.
It's incredible. And so many of our colleagues could say the same thing, whether that's, start naming the bands, they're all of our colleagues. We all have this.
Well, exactly.
We have this amazing luxury, and we're still out there playing it.
Yeah.
We're in a real critical period right now because we're at a point where the fans, the audience, their desire and to want to hear the music is outlasting the artist's ability to be able to perform it effectively.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the hardest parts of the band are singers and drummers to me.
Yeah.
Very physical jobs.
Yeah.
That's where time shows up for those two spots especially. But we're in that kind of thing now. I mean, we lost Kenny Shields.
Yeah.
6 years ago, we lost Kenny.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, it was 2017. 2017, he passed in 2017. And I mean, we're incredibly fortunate to have had Paul McNair be able to step in. He's not trying to be Kenny. What we needed, after Kenny passed, we didn't know what we were going to do for ages. We just thought about it. Then when we started talking about it, we needed to find a singer who could sing a very difficult catalog of songs.
Yep.
Not a sound-alike. We didn't want that because what are you going to do? I mean, people will go, oh, he sort of sounds like Kenny, but it's not Kenny.
Yeah.
And so Paul in his own right is his own great singer, and he's got these great songs to sing, and we're very lucky. But time is it's making it hard. I mean, you hear people. I mean, people can be pretty tough. We have to suffer through some pretty harsh criticism sometimes that me is unwarranted.
Yeah.
It rolls off my back. I don't care. I ignore it. But I know that some people it's hurtful to them. It's hurtful to artists. But it is a funny time we're going through. I mean, a lot of my heroes, I'm always saying our because we're all kind of in this.
We're not that far apart in age, so
no, but when you see when you like last week, you lose Jeff Beck and David Crosby and Robbie Bachman.
Yep.
It's just, and people go, oh, I hope things get better. I go, well. All of my heroes are all around 80 years old now.
Yeah, this is a one-way train.
Yeah, it is, of course. And listen, life is a beautiful, beautiful thing, but it's a limited time experience for everyone. Yeah. For everyone. My only hope is that I can have a gentle passing. Like some of my colleagues have done. It's the one thing I always say about Kenny. He had a very, very gentle passing. He was well loved. He was surrounded by people who loved him, and he just slipped away gently. We could all hope for that.
Yeah.
But for the time being, like as I said earlier, we're still here.
Yeah.
So we make the most of it. I'm looking forward to the summer, and we're going to see all our fans again, and we're just going to continue to have the best time we can for as long as we can.
Absolutely. Hey, folks, that was Jeff Neill of Streetheart, and actually only the first half of my interview with Jeff. So I can't wait for you to hear the rest of it. Make sure you tune back in on Thursday, and we'll get you going with all the rest that Jeff has to share with us. We'll see you then.